Newstalk 1340 KROC-AM. Good morning. I'm Andy Brownell on a beautiful Friday morning. That's 2 weeks in a row I've been able to say a beautiful Friday morning. 68 degrees. Tom Ostrom's here, and we're ready to roll. 282-1234 is our number, and I understand you have a couple mailbags for us, Thomas.
Yes. Everywhere we go, Andy, we meet wonderful people that listen to the show, and they're always so impressive. I wonder why they listen to me. I can see why they listen to you.
Ha, 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 ha.
But anyway, this gentleman, Dwight Vold, V-O-L-D, Vold, he's a realtor, sharp dresser, sharp guy, well-informed, had fun talking to him. And he told me that among his clients recently are two soldiers back from Afghanistan, a male and a female. They serve their country. They want to settle in Rochester, employment opportunities and other things, and so he's helping them get settled.
That's fantastic.
And he enjoys the show.
Welcome to the community, that's for sure.
You bet. And then, Pete Chaffos, the Greek,
out at the mall,
the Greek shoe man at the mall, the shoe repair store. Well, he does leather stuff too. So I had some of my leathers and whips, taken it. Now I've lost a couple pounds, so I took all my belts in to be adjusted with leather. And he's such a nice guy.
That was a very frightening image you just painted there.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, and he is so funny, Pete. I'm trying to get him to come on the air with you. He knows Rochester history. He's got photographs. He's got articles. He does this. He does that. He listens to the show. He enjoys the show. I told him...
his family certainly has a lot of connections to this community going back.
Oh, he knows the history. And I said, come and talk with Andy. He hears the shows, and he knows you do that, see? But, I can't get him to come on the air with you because he says... I said, go on with Andy, you know so much. And he said, no, he says, I'd freeze. I wouldn't be able to talk. And I said, well, you talk my ear off every time I come in here. And he said, well, I can talk to you and that. But he said, no. But he knows so much history, and he's a Greek Orthodox gentleman, and his brother-in-law is an Orthodox priest who runs a cathedral in New York City. And his sister is noted at the University of Minnesota, and she's been on national boards and very active in things. And she was a speechwriter for several presidents. Her name is Nikki Chaffos. That's Pete's sister. So he's telling me about that, and he's telling me about the show. And boy, he listens, because listen to this. He gave me all kinds of articles on Rochester history and on his family. And I told him, I said, I like your nephew. I said, Stephanopoulos. I said, I don't agree with his politics, but I said he's a courteous interviewer, and he's civil, and he lets people talk, and he has good questions. I said, he's a good broadcaster. He said, well, I'm glad you think that. He's well, you and Andy are too. We don't interrupt people, and we don't cause trouble, But anyway, to show you how much he listens, he said, oh, I'm getting more articles for you. I said, oh, on what? He says, Senator Joe McCarthy. I know you like him. He's at Apache Mall if you want an interesting conversation and some leather work or shoes done. That's the mailbag.
That is the mailbag, Thomas. Okay, we're going to take a break before we dive into it. 282-1234 is our number. Be sure to join us on KROC-AM, and, of course, join us on KROC-AM.com. I got to tell you about this on the website. There's a tab you got to check out. If you go to KROC-AM.com, along the top row, it says Win Stuff. Click on that, and there's a bunch of opportunities to win different prizes, cash, significant gift cards. I mean, we're not talking about little petty stuff here. And they'll get you tied into us as well with the Facebook page and all that business. So just check that out. It's Win Stuff on KROC-AM.com. Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs. Boy, oh boy, they're getting a nice run at the root beer stand with this weather. So, the other shoe's going to drop eventually. If you haven't been there lately, you better get it in before the winter season starts. And the fish fry continues with the delicious batter fried Icelandic cod and the fries and the JoJo potatoes and if not, just get some ribs and get some barbecue chicken, whatever you want at Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs.
And the great sides. And yeah, that root beer too is sugar free if you want that kind too. The fish fries, the sides, the beans, the coleslaw, everything else. A friendly staff, great food for takeout. They cater events, too, so you want to do that. So they're open for the remainder of the season, and it's a beautiful day to bring you back to the 1950s. And then, of course, Roscoe's at Shopko North by the movie theater is open, too, all year round and 7 days a week. But the famous fish fry is back.
That's Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs. KROC-AM, 69 degrees downtown Rochester, 19 past 10 o'clock. I'm Andy Brownell with Tom Ostrom. 282-1234 is the number. And again, a replay of the program later today, available later today on KROC-AM.com. Tom, what do you want to start with?
We'll get to ISIS.
I got to get your microphone on. There you go.
We'll get to ISIS, and everybody's covering it. We have maybe later in the hour, and we certainly next week. But I'm going to start with some domestic issues, too.
Okay.
I was preparing the show to be up to standard and be able to cope with you a little bit, but I made the mistake of checking once more the news, and there was a YouTube. You taught me about those. So
we even have a YouTube channel now, KROC-AM, and you can subscribe to it.
Okay.
Well, actually, when you get the replays of the program now, they're on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Just a little tidbit information.
So I made the mistake. I was mellowed out. I'd been under the weather a couple of days, adjusting, looking forward to seeing you, and I thought I'm kind of calm. Weather was nice. I was low blood pressure.
You sounded like I'm going to wreck your mood here.
Oh, no, you aren't. But the YouTube did.
Oh, okay.
Here I see the police chief of Ferguson. Now, President Obama, to try to apologize to the world, apologized for Ferguson in his UN speech.
I saw the video.
But the Ferguson police chief,
yeah,
apologizing. Let me finish because you'll probably stick up for him. I was so furious listening to that guy. I thought, you are handing over the city to those thugs. He apologized for what happened in his police overreaction to demonstrators. No, they were looters. He apologized for letting the body of the victim in the road so long, but then he said they had to do their forensics, they had to do this, they had to do that. Nothing about the policeman that was attacked and assaulted. Nothing about the circumstance. In fact, then they apologized for even showing that the culprit had robbed a store earlier, and the community's mad because that biased the public against him. Wow. So, and then he's apologizing. Why don't the police unions, why don't people speak up for that police officer? He's handed the city over to the mob. And by the way, the mob wasn't satisfied. They were on YouTube. Oh, it's too late. So then he made the mistake of getting out of his uniform and going and marching with the latest round of demonstrators. He was booed. He was hissed. He had to be protected. So he gained nothing by that except the contempt. How does he expect his police force to carry out their jobs anymore? Coward, just a coward. I'm just irritated by that. But I think I'm okay now. And you're smiling, so what do you got to say?
I don't know what to say anymore. Public relations firm hired by the city put this together because they have to, at some point, mend fences. A police force can only police a community if the community is willing to be policed. Talk to any law enforcement officer out there, and they'll teach you that right away. There's a limited number of officers. You can't put an officer on every street corner, on every doorstep, and every place else. If you lose the ability to police, then you cannot police. And somehow in this community, they have such a rupture of public trust between the government and those who are being governed, there's a multitude of reasons for it. And it's not all the government's fault either. I mean, you have a very dysfunctional city for a lot of reasons, and somehow they're going to have to put the pieces back together. And the people who are in power there decided that this would be the first step that they could take was to issue and to be honest with you, Tom, it wasn't really that much of an apology. He didn't really apologize for the death of the man. He apologized, and he, like you say, he pointed out that the young man's body laid in the street for 4 hours. But
he apologized.
But he also said it was necessary to do that.
But he apologized for the shooting without the officer's side. Why does the one side get to do it,
See, I didn't hear
the other
that.
side? And he's given up. You say that the police have to have the ability to police the community. This kind of mea culpa will make them have even less ability to police the community because they'll be afraid to do anything with the dominant black majority, who are being forgiven for their looting, forgiven for the fires. And this guy that attacked the police officer, what's the next police officer in Ferguson going to do when he has an incident? And by the way, the police officer Wilson had just gotten a call that this young man had been involved in a store robbery, and then he had to approach them again. He got pushed into his car. He got beaten up. Where is his side in it? And by the way, any grand jury now will be afraid to exonerate the police officer, and if they do, there'll be more riots.
See, I did not hear the apology that you're talking about. I did not hear him apologize for the shooting death of the young man. I did not hear that in anything he said. He mentioned to the parents that he had empathy for them for the loss of their child, but he never discussed who was right or wrong.
Well, why didn't he defend police practice and the circumstances that they find themselves in and how difficult that job is?
Because the city hired a public relations firm that told him that this would be the best thing he could do.
It was probably a bunch of liberals. So, well, we see it differently, Andrew.
No, I get your points, but at some point, this community, and I'm talking about Ferguson, because this is, you and I in Rochester, Minnesota, can have all sorts of opinions about this and how things should go down, but this is the community that's got to put the pieces back together after what happened down there and move forward, and it's really easy from far away to come up with all sorts of stand your ground and do all this.
It is, but people have to fear the police, too. And then the body armor and the policing. He was too tough on the demonstrators. He said that, too. And here there was fires and looting. We've covered both sides as usual. But
I would love a law enforcement officer to call, because the idea of fearing police, I disagree with. Respecting police is not fearing
the
police.
Bad guys have to know they'll be responded to.
Yes.
And with this speech,
I agree.
I say they won't know that, and you think that they'll mend fences. We'll see.
I do agree that I don't know if this little YouTube video will have any impact. I personally didn't think it was very effective in trying to mend whatever divisions are there. I think it's symbolic at best.
Well, you're right. Reverend Sharpton said it's too little, too late, and so did other people that were interviewed. So it just makes them look weaker.
Sorry, I'm going to agree with you on that part of it.
Let's see what they do to misstate some. Eric Holder's resigning as Attorney General, and I think he wants to be appointed to the Supreme Court or get out. Yeah, but I also think a Freedom of Information Act and a federal judge has chided him for his handling of Fast and Furious documents and their delay, and they want to delay giving them to the judge till after the election. And a federal court and two judges have gone after them and say, "You get those documents here, and here's what we want to know about it." That hurt Holder. Some of his politicization of his post, deciding what laws not to enforce. He's a friend of the president, the IRS scandal. He was found in contempt of court for his handling of things. He was political, and he was stubborn and ideological. So I'm not sorry to see him go, but I don't know who's going to replace him.
Well, that's what when I heard all the conservative types cheering the departure of Holder, I thought, well, you better wait to see who's going to be appointed as replacement. Yeah. How much of this could just be that you're in the second half of the second term in office, and this guy is saying, this is a lame duck presidency. This president, especially on domestic issues, at this point, has very little say in what's happening right now. I mean, as far as going forward, everybody's waiting to see who will be the next president, who will control the Senate after November, and you might as well get out when the getting out's good, is the way I saw it. He's probably
he's in a lot of trouble, though. Again, these Fast and Furious documents are coming. IRS, he hasn't bothered to even appoint a investigation. FBI hasn't even looked into it. He's so political. He's with his friend Obama. He's protected him, and he's refused to enforce certain laws, including our border laws. I just think he was. Now I know Nixon's department, DOJ, was political too, and I guess to all extents, there's bound to be. But well, who's replacing him? You'll see. And then, of course, will President Obama give a candidate up before the election? or will they wait till after? But I don't think Obama wants to try to appoint someone if the Republicans take the Senate and keep the House. But we'll see.
Yeah, he'll have to make an appointment relatively quickly because
Ginsburg has been pushed. The Justice Ginsburg, she's old and she's ill, and there's a lot of pressure by Democrats to say, get out so he can put someone in.
I believe that.
Yeah.
But I don't think Holder would be the person. I think that would be...
Don't you?
You know what? I can't discount it that much because I come back and go, well, that would be just so divisive to do that. And every time I've said that this president wouldn't do something that would be so divisive like that, he's turned around and done it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to poo-hoo it too much.
Well, some say he's just going to a quieter life, Holder, and go back to that law firm he worked for and make some money for change.
Make some money for change.
Evil rich.
69. Tom Ostrom's here. I'm Andy Brownell, and Brent Ackerman is in the news center, and he'll be by in just a few minutes, and we'll do a news break. It's 10:29, KROC-AM, and, of course, KROC-AM.com, where you can find all the latest news, sports, and weather. News Talk 1340, KROC-AM.
That's what all the people say.
It is 70 downtown. Tom Ostrom's here. I'm Andy Brownell. 282-1234 is our phone number. And, Thomas, we have had a caller on hold through the news break. Good morning. You are on KROC.
Hi. Well,
hello.
It looks like Eric Holder is getting out one jump for impeachment. With a new Senate, he might even possibly get convicted. And he's got judges jumping on him. He's in trouble deep. Maybe the president might try appointing Al Sharpton to take his place.
All right.
Yeah, he has got things piling up on him. That might be a reason that he knows something's coming down the pike.
There's just all these bad things, including the IRS. I think is the worst.
All right, we'll watch and see what happens.
That's just going to blow up, and he doesn't want to be there when it does.
Okay.
Who would? Okay, Cato, thanks for calling in.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hey.
Am I on hold?
No, you're not.
You're on the
go
air.
Ahead.
I'm on air. Okay. I just had a question. Would you comment on our current mayor's political history? In other words, he tends to vote what direction, and what can we expect if he gets reelected again come November?
Well, I'm not going to read Ardell's mind. I know he has certainly aligned himself with Democrats in the past, and he hasn't been shy about that. But it's a nonpartisan position, the mayor's office, and he campaigns as a nonpartisan for that office. But I'm certainly not going to read his mind or put words in his mouth.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess I'm kind of a right-wing Republican. I've served my country in the Air Force, and I'm really concerned about the direction our country is going. And I would hope that at least at the local level we could do something about the continued political correctness in our society.
All right. Thanks for calling in. I'm not sure what the mayor's role would be in that. In our mayoral system, the mayor, it's a weak mayor system where the real power in government lies with the city council president and the council. Although the council president has one vote on the council, he has a bit more say in the flow of discussion and also the agenda part of it. The mayor has veto power in our form of government, and also can kind of influence an agenda that way by pushing things to the forefront using the bully pulpit, as they would say. But in large part, it's at least it has been since the Chuck Hazama days, especially more of a role of a cheerleader for the city and promoting economic development more than anything else.
And you had something you wanted to say about that, too, I think, a local issue.
Well, that might tie in. I'm just going to the DMC thing that happened this week, that Minnesota Attorney General Lori Swanson issued this opinion after the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development took the legislation, and this always works. You get this piece of documentation put together by the lawyers and the lawmakers, and then they hand it off to the bureaucrats, and the bureaucrats go through it, and it's their job to implement the law as it's written. And when they came back and looked at the law as it's written, they said this basically says to us that you're going to have to come up with $12 billion in private investment, which would include the Mayo Clinic investment, not the $6 billion that Mayo thought. And Mayo said, "Oh, look, we're going to kick in 3.5, and we anticipate another 2.5 and other private investment through hotels, recreational facilities. You have it to come up with this $6 billion to free up what amounts to $327 million in state funding over this period of years to help with infrastructure costs." Of course, that would be a disaster if that's what it would have to be, $12 billion, not million. And my observation on this is, through this entire process of writing up this legislation, there were numerous high-powered legal minds involved in this. And I'm not talking just about the lawmakers. Mayo brought in some very powerful lobbying forces and legal types to draft legislation and put this together. And after it went through the legislative process, there were multiple opportunities for these legal minds to review the language, the therefores and the howevers and everything else that gets put into a bill to make sure that the language reflected the intent of the legislature. And somehow you got through this entire process, and they apparently completely blew it. It just amazes me. It was a very quick, probably one of the fastest moving types of legislation of this magnitude to go through the state legislature, but it still amazes me that an error that large, and it probably is in some phrase, it's a flip of a phrase,
it's interpretive,
slipped through the cracks.
It's interpretive language. I don't know if any judges have looked at this to help the legislature make this recent decision, or is the Democrat legislature trying to soak more money out of Rochester by arguing words? No. I don't know the level of analysis that has caused this change. What kind of people have looked at those words? And are they going to be challenged? I think what they're going to do is go back to the state legislature and have them rewrite it to reflect what the intent was. When the intent was $6 billion, but the language as interpreted by bureaucrats is what it is. I mean, I'm not using that as a derogatory term in this case. It's the people whose job it is to sit down and take the language and translate that into real-world action and regulation. But has a court looked at those words, or is it lawmakers that are looking at the words?
It was lawmakers sent the words over to the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats said, when we look at this, it doesn't say what you thought it said. It says this. And now the state attorney general, who is the legal mind, looked at it and said, you know what, the bureaucrats are right. That is what it says. So you guys need to fix it.
So it is a legal assessment with the attorney general.
With the attorney general. It doesn't. You could go to court and challenge it, but then
I think
you risk.
They will.
No, they'll go back to the state legislature because
they reword
I think there's enough support within the state legislature to reword it. But my point is, I'm a little bit flabbergasted that watching how this process took place and the high-powered types that were involved in writing the actual legislation. That one slipped through the cracks. That's kind of a big boo-boo. Big boo-boo, as they say. We have a couple calls now. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Morning.
Morning.
Hi.
Say, I think they're just trying to shake Mayo down for a little bit more money.
Well, you're going to get $12 billion. I can almost guarantee that.
Well, the other thing is that this is a bureaucrat, the appointed or the elected attorney general. What does it cost him to put that challenge out there? Right? If nobody challenges him, they get the money, right?
No. That would probably cause the entire initiative to fall in on its own way.
Well, they don't worry about that. They just think about the money. The last thing in their mind is actually providing health care. That's not what they're after right now.
Who's they?
The gentleman who issued the opinion, the attorney general, right?
No, it's an interpretation made by a regulator that has been us.
Yeah, the bean counters got a hold of it, and they dreamed up this little thing, and then they passed it to him and says, that could be right. And if nobody challenges it, that's who it'll be. The outcome doesn't really concern them. It's just a matter of they're trying to grab some money here. And the lawyers who wrote this and the lobbyists that wrote this, I'm sure are licking their chops at a chance to get these guys in court.
See, I don't think it's going to go to court. This is something you'd have to fix through the legislative process.
Well, perhaps. Now, the real reason I called was related to the Ferguson scenario.
Yeah.
It would be extremely interesting if someone did a case study of what is Ferguson like today, the number of honest businesses, the number of occupied versus unoccupied homes, statistics of that type, the median income, crime rates, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And then watch the evolution that is taking place and report it every, say, couple of years and say, okay, it was here, now it's here. To see what's going on.
Well, I think you could do that in a lot of areas of this country, and you could make arguments on a lot of different factors. I get where you're going with this exactly, and I think it should be part of a national discussion. I read a recent report that, oh my gosh, you make me pull this out of my brain instead of having it in front of me. It was since the beginning of Johnson's war on poverty, and this excludes Medicare and Social Security funds. This is food stamps, general assistance, WIC programs, you name every single thing that has been put together since Johnson began the war on poverty. And it's $23 trillion has been spent.
To what avail?
Well, and that's what the report was. And then if you looked at the poverty rate and you excluded the the government payments to the populations receiving them, it hasn't fixed a dang thing, is what you're trying to say. And when Johnson proposed it, his stated goal was that by giving folks this little boost at the bottom, we're going to push them towards self-reliance. And it has arguably had the opposite effect.
And I think the Andy and I disagree with this, but I think this pressure on police makes them reluctant to respond. They don't want to get sued. They don't want to get fired. And I think it's a dedicated effect to lessen the law enforcement on the criminal communities. And Eric Holder himself has intervened even in school districts to say, we want to look at how you punish white students versus black students on detention and everything else, what the statistics are. I think it's a move to defang the police when it comes to enforcement of the criminal communities, and I'll be quiet after that.
Well, Tom, I think you're unfortunately correct, and the piece that seems to be missing in everyone's analysis, not everyone's, but in people's analysis of this, and their desire to make the arrest rates identical for all races, you just don't find that many Asians or Caucasians doing the same things that get the black folks arrested to begin with, and not all of them, but not everybody, but there's an element within that population that their behavior is what causes the arrest, not the police going out looking for somebody of a certain race to arrest.
But if we analyze why Asians are less involved in crime, anything you come up with would be called racist, even though they're non-white.
But there's no denying the statistics show, as our caller said, that young black males are far more likely to be incarcerated than young white males. But then you start peeling back the layers and try to figure it out. And race is just one of the components. The others are high unemployment, lack of education, the breakdown of the family, and you go through all these issues that ultimately need to be addressed by the entire society, not just one segment.
And the welfare system you just mentioned with LBJ has contributed to the breakdown of the black family. It has encouraged the dissolution of the black family.
And so has, so has racism. You're less likely to get a job if you're a young black male, regardless of your level of education. It still exists. The racism part of it,
and the unemployment rate is double, even in the Obama administration.
Right. It's not.
Andy, I have to take issue with part of what you said, and that is that if you are a young black male and you've gone to college and graduated and have perhaps even pursued a graduate degree, you are more likely to be offered a job than a Caucasian or an Oriental of equal qualification.
I'm not going to be able to argue that one with you right now. I wish I had some. I'm not sure. I just anecdotally, these are the kind of the things that stick in your brain. Was the recent story of the young man who went out and he was not African American. He's Latino, and he went out applying for jobs. This is in California. Couldn't even get an interview. His name Jose, and then he changed his resume to make it Joe, and he had 10 interviews scheduled within a week.
Oh, and I think was he? What type of job was he looking for? Was it entry level?
No, it wasn't. He was coming out of college with a degree.
Oh, that's
It's that kind of thing that when people say racism isn't a problem anymore, I go, yeah, I think it still is.
Nobody would be foolish enough to say racism is not a problem anymore. It's just that getting back to my original point, I think behavior has a great deal more to do with the arrest record.
Oh, yeah.
You can try and analyze, well, why are they behaving that way? Well, you look at someone like Dr. Ben Carson.
Yeah.
Grew up in extreme poverty in Detroit.
Right. Yeah.
Single parent, and how come he's not in the judge?
And he's a great role model, and so liberals call him a traitor to his class.
Yeah, he's their least favorite person.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for the great
Thank
call.
you.
Appreciate it. We have to take a break. We have another call, too, Thomas. Boy, oh boy, busy day. 71 degrees downtown Rochester at KROC-AM. It's already 8 minutes away from 11 o'clock. Our friends at Victoria's Restaurante and Wine Bar. Oh, my goodness, what a great day to be outdoors, sitting along the sidewalk in those tables with a nice breeze and enjoying this kind of day where you want the rest of the day off so you can have that glass of wine with your lunch as well. But you can go there for dinner as well at Victoria's Restaurante and Wine Bar in downtown Rochester.
Oh, boy, and does Victoria's Restaurante specialize in catering and accommodating you and guiding you through that huge, beautiful menu? And they got a quick lunch cafe right across the aisle from the main part of the restaurant. But they'll help you. They'll cater events. They'll select the menu items. They'll send staff to help you with it. The finest ingredients of the pastas and the salads, and the specialties, the bakery goods, the fine wines. And they'll guide you through the process. They'll come and cater to the event, or they'll help you do it, and you come and get the food. But the staff, the menu, the environment is just exquisite.
That's Victoria's Restaurante and Wine Bar right in downtown Rochester. 3 minutes away from 11 o'clock. Man, this hour is just flying by. And, Thomas, this caller has been on hold all the way through this break and the last conversation. And I thank you so much for your patience. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning. I got my militant moderate hat on.
Okay.
I think that Lori Swanson made a brilliant decision. And this Attorney General is the kind of people that I would like to see in Washington, possibly as a replacement for that moron that's currently in office.
I think you might be onto something there.
And I think that this decision is based on bad law is worse than no law at all, and badly written law is worthless, absolutely worthless. This law that was presented was poorly written, and I think that the people that should be taken to task are the people that presented it to her. Her decision was brilliant.
You and I guess, are sharing the opinion because I'm flabbergasted that something with that glaring of a mistake, and it got all the way to the point where it was signed into law.
You look at some of the things that have happened up in the Twin Cities that have just breezed through the legislature. It's terribly, terribly written. And they're just getting the money. I mean, we're paying for Nicollet Mall, 2 stadiums, land and parks up there. $50,000 water fountains are coming out of our back pocket, not just the Twin Cities. This is ridiculous. I think that this is a good decision that she made, and maybe we can get a hand on this DMC thing.
Isn't the city official going up too with the Mayo representatives?
Oh, they will. It'll be next winter in February or whatever. But they'll put a little Band-Aid that'll fix that little segment of it that gets it back to where.
Well, part of the problem too is lawmakers either are so busy, or they have staffs, or they're dependent, or they're not doing their job. A lot of them don't read the legislation they sign.
Well, this thing is, it's probably it's a big document.
In a hurry, and they work 7 hours a day.
I think you're going to find a lot of these guys will take issue to that.
Okay.
See you later.
Throws a bombshell.
And to the lawmakers who are listening right now, I know you work more than 7 hours a day. and as others have said, I'm thankful that there are people willing to step forward to do that job, because it's oftentimes a thankless job to go up there and represent your community. And I'm always amazed that there's so many people who do file to be candidates and run for election.
Yeah, and running for office is extraordinarily difficult and emotional and vicious.
And when they come knocking on your door, be polite at least. Say hello. You might even learn something by having a conversation with some of the folks who are walking around. You find out that even if you disagree philosophically with these folks, and most of them are genuinely nice people who are pretty decent people to talk with, and take in an opinion and explore ideas. That's all. We didn't hardly get to your list at all today, Ostrom.
Oh, yeah, we did a couple items which caused all the fussing.
Okay, but you're going to be gone on assignment again, I believe. We've got to double check on that.
I got to double check.
But regardless, Gil Gutnick will be here next Tuesday.
Yeah.
If you're in the studio, bonus. It'll be a fun show. If not, Gil will be here. How's that sound?
Good.
Okay, and then on Monday, I got to promote that it'll be the Power of Learning show. Jim Walters will be in. We'll be doing our little critical thinking hour as well. That'll be Monday morning here on News Talk, 1340 KROC-AM, Rochester. It is 11 o'clock.